I was in the middle of a conference call with our Singapore office when my phone buzzed on the desk. I glanced at it out of habit. I let it buzz. I'd call her back after the call wrapped up. We were finalizing a distribution agreement that had taken 11 months to negotiate, and I wasn't about to lose my focus over a text. 40 minutes later, when my assistant had cleared the room and I finally had a moment to breathe, I picked up my phone. The text was still there. Waiting. Thanksgiving is at your Aunt Patricia's this year. Big dinner. Tyler is bringing his new wife, Cassandra. She's lovely, sweetheart. Very polished. Very refined. We just think, and Tyler agrees, that it might be better if he didn't come this year. Cassandra doesn't know the family yet and Tyler wants her to feel comfortable. You understand, right? I read it twice. Then I scrolled down and saw that my father had liked the message with a thumbs up. Not a response. Not a phone call. Not even the courtesy of a conversation. Just a thumbs up, endorsing the decision to uninvite his own daughter from Thanksgiving like he was approving a lunch order. I set the phone down on my desk and looked out the window. My office is on the 31st floor of a building I own 40% of. From where I sit, I can see the entire downtown skyline, the river cutting silver through the city below, and on clear days the hills beyond the East Bridge. I had spent the better part of a decade building toward this view. Late nights. Missed weekends. Decisions that terrified me and paid off anyway. A company that had grown from a 2-person operation in a shared workspace to a firm with 212 employees and a valuation that would make most people's eyes water. I thought about all of that for a moment. Then I typed back, understood. And I went back to work. Here's something I should explain. I had never met Cassandra Whitmore in person. Tyler had started dating her about 18 months earlier, shortly after his divorce from his first wife, Dana, who I had always liked and who the family had quietly pushed out in a way that still bothered me. Cassandra was different according to my mother. Sophisticated. Well-connected. She ran a boutique PR firm called Prestige PR Group, which handled brand reputation management for mid-size companies trying to look bigger than they were. According to Tyler, she had major corporate clients. According to my mother, she dressed beautifully and knew which fork to use. According to my brother, I would embarrass her. I had seen photos. Tyler had posted a few on his social media. Dinners out, a weekend in the Hamptons, a charity gala where Cassandra stood straight-backed in a gown that cost more than most people's monthly rent. She was beautiful in the way that people who have worked very hard to appear effortless are beautiful. Everything in the photos was curated. Every angle deliberate. I recognized it because I had learned to do the same thing, though for different reasons. What Cassandra did not know, what Tyler apparently had not told her, or perhaps what he had conveniently left out, was that I was not the family embarrassment. I was the family's quiet anomaly. The one who had left for the city at 22 with a business idea and a savings account that wouldn't cover 3 months of rent. The one who had not called home much during the lean years because there was nothing comfortable to report. The one who had missed weddings and birthdays and yes, Thanksgivings because I was building something, and building something real takes the kind of time that families tend to interpret as absence or indifference. By the time Tyler had married Cassandra, my company, Aldridge Capital Ventures, was a known entity in certain circles. We didn't advertise. We didn't court press. We moved quietly, backed companies we believed in, and took positions in funds that generated returns our investors had stopped questioning because the numbers were simply consistent. We had a portfolio of 43 companies across 11 industries. One of them, as it happened, was a silent backing arrangement with a mid-size PR firm that had approached us 3 years earlier looking for institutional support during an expansion phase. The firm was called Prestige PR Group. The backing was $3.4 million. Cassandra had no idea. The Wednesday before Thanksgiving, my assistant Marcus brought me a coffee and set it on my desk with the particular care he used when he suspected I needed it without being asked. "You good?" he said. "Always," I said. He nodded once and left. Marcus had been with me for 6 years. He had learned not to push. I spent Thanksgiving working. This was not unusual. I had spent a number of holidays working over the years, and I had made a kind of peace with it that I knew other people found sad and that I found, honestly, clarifying. There is a particular quality to a city on a holiday, quieter, emptier, the streets stripped of their usual urgency, that I had always found conducive to thinking. I ordered delivery from the Thai place 3 blocks away that stayed open year-round. I reviewed a term sheet for a new acquisition. I had a video call with our London analyst at 7 in the evening because time zones don't observe American holidays. My phone was quiet. No calls from Mom. No follow-up text from Tyler. No message from my father beyond that original, crushing thumbs up. I thought about that thumbs up more than I wanted to. My father was not a cruel man. He was a conflict-avoidant man, which in practice meant that when cruelty was being decided by other people in the room, he tended to nod along and call it keeping the peace. I had watched him do this my whole life. When Tyler was favored. When my achievements were minimized. When my choices were questioned. My father kept the peace by disappearing into agreement. And he had been disappearing for so long that I sometimes wondered if there was anything left beneath the surface that wasn't shaped by whoever had spoken to him last. Cassandra had spoken to him. Or she had spoken to Tyler and Tyler had spoken to him and the thumbs up had followed naturally. I ate my pad thai and reviewed the term sheet and did not cry, because I had learned not to spend tears on things I had already accepted as true about people. The Monday after Thanksgiving I was in the office by 7. By 9 I had cleared my overnight emails, approved 2 wire transfers, and finished a call with our Tokyo contact who wanted to discuss Q1 positioning. By 10:30, I was in back-to-back internal meetings reviewing the performance of 3 portfolio companies heading into year-end. At 12:15, Marcus appeared in my doorway with the expression he used when something needed my attention without being an emergency. "You have a 2 o'clock, he said. "Pitch meeting. PR firm. They reached out through the general inquiry channel about 2 weeks ago. Didn't know if you wanted to take it yourself or hand it to Michael." "Who's the firm?" I said. "Prestige PR Group," he said. "Their founder is coming in personally. A Cassandra Whitmore." I looked at him for a moment. "I'll take it," I said. Marcus nodded and left. If he noticed anything in my expression, he gave no sign of it. I spent the next hour finishing my existing work and thinking about nothing in particular. I am a person who has trained herself not to anticipate. Anticipation is expensive. It costs attention and energy that belongs to the present moment, and the present moment is always where the actual work is. So I did not sit and imagine the meeting or rehearse what I might say or plan the arc of what was coming. I simply finished what was in front of me and waited for 2 o'clock. At 1:58 my desk phone buzzed. "Ms. Whitmore is in the lobby," Marcus said. "Give me 2 minutes, then send her up," I said. I stood and straightened my jacket. I moved to the small credenza against the wall and poured 2 glasses of water from the carafe. I set them on the meeting table beside the window. I returned to my chair behind the desk and opened the folder Marcus had prepared with the background on Prestige PR Group. I already knew most of it. 3 years ago, when their expansion loan had fallen through and their bank had declined a second facility, Cassandra's CFO had approached 3 institutional investors looking for silent backing. We had been the only one to say yes. The arrangement was clean. We took no board seat, no operational involvement, no naming rights. We simply provided the capital, took a structured return schedule and left them to run their business. Cassandra dealt with her CFO. Her CFO dealt with our accounts team. In 3 years she had never once needed to know who was on the other side of the arrangement. That was how silent backing worked. That was how I preferred it. I heard the elevator open down the hall. I heard heels on the marble floor. I heard Marcus say something polite and unintelligible, followed by a pause, and then I heard the footsteps stop. I looked up at my office door, which was open as it always was when I was expecting someone. Through the glass panel beside the door frame I could see the hallway. I could see Cassandra Whitmore standing in it. She was looking at the nameplate on my door. Lena Aldridge. Chief Executive Officer. I watched her read it. I watched the moment she processed it. Her posture, which had been perfectly composed when she stepped off the elevator, shifted in a way that was almost imperceptible. A micro-adjustment in the shoulders, a slight stiffening in the neck. The kind of physical recalibration that happens when the brain receives information it was not prepared for and has to rapidly restructure its assumptions. She stood there for 3 full seconds. Then she looked up and saw me through the glass, already watching her. I smiled. I gestured toward the chair across from my desk. She came in. "Miss Whitmore," I said. "I'm Elena. Thank you for coming in." She sat. She was composed, I'll give her that. Whatever she was feeling in that moment, she had the professional discipline to set it aside and present the polished surface she had built her entire identity around. Her suit was excellent. Her posture was straight. Her smile when it came was practiced and nearly warm. "Thank you for seeing me," she said. "I wasn't expecting," she paused. "I didn't realize you personally reviewed incoming pitches." "I don't always," I said. "But I was interested in your firm." She nodded. Something moved behind her eyes that I couldn't quite name. Not guilt exactly. More like the sensation of standing on ground that had suddenly become uncertain, and not yet knowing how uncertain. She opened her portfolio and began her pitch. It was good. I'll say that honestly. Cassandra Whitmore was very good at her job. She had slides that were clean and data that was solid and a narrative that was confident without being arrogant. She was pitching for a new engagement. A larger partnership than their current structure, a deeper integration, expanded services. She had clearly prepared. She had clearly done her homework on what firms like mine were looking for. She had not done enough homework on who owned the firm. I let her finish. I asked 3 questions. Substantive questions, real questions, because whatever was happening personally had nothing to do with whether she could run her business. She answered well. She was sharp. Tyler had not married a fool. When the pitch concluded, I folded my hands on the desk and looked at her directly. "I'm familiar with Prestige PR Group," I said. "Oh," she said. "We've had a financial relationship with your firm for approximately 3 years," I said. "Silent backing arrangement. $3.4 million. Structured through your CFO, a Mr. Dennis Lau." The room was very quiet. Cassandra Whitmore went very still. "I wasn't aware," she started. "Most principals aren't," I said. "That's the nature of the arrangement. We prefer it that way. It keeps things clean." She looked at me. I looked at her. Outside the window, the city moved below us in its ordinary Monday afternoon way, completely indifferent to what was happening on the 31st floor. "You're Tyler's sister," she said. It wasn't a question. "I am," I said. Another silence. Longer this time. Her phone, sitting face up on the table beside her portfolio, buzzed once. She didn't look at it. Then it buzzed again. Then twice more in quick succession. She looked down at it. I watched her read whatever was on the screen. I watched the color shift in her face. Because while we had been sitting in that meeting, I had sent a single text. Not a long message. Not an explanation. Not a speech. Just 11 words to my accounts director, David Chin, who had been with me for 8 years and who understood that when I sent a message like that, I did not need a conversation about it. The message read, "Terminate all contracts with Prestige PR Group." Immediately. David had moved fast as he always did. Dennis Lau, Cassandra's CFO, had received the formal notice before she'd finished her pitch deck. "Elena," she started. "You don't have to say anything," I said. My voice was even. I was not angry. Anger was something I had spent years learning to move past quickly because anger keeps you in the moment of the wound, and I preferred to live ahead of it. "I want to be clear that this decision isn't emotional." She looked at me. "The backing arrangement was always structured with a performance and alignment review at the 3-year mark," I said. "We're at that mark. Upon review, we've determined that the fit isn't right for continued support. That's a business decision." "It's not," she stopped herself. "Recalibrated. Tried again. The timing is what it is," I said. Her phone buzzed again. She looked at it, and this time I could see from her expression that Dennis was calling, not texting. She declined the call. Her hand, I noticed, was not entirely steady when she set the phone back down. "I didn't know," she said quietly. "About you. About the backing. Tyler never." "Tyler doesn't know either," I said. "We don't discuss business in the family." He absorbed that. "What he does know," I continued, "and what you presumably know, is that I was asked not to attend Thanksgiving because my presence would embarrass you." I said it simply, without venom, the way you'd state a fact about weather. I replied that I understood. And I did understand. "I just want you to know that understanding something and accepting it as correct are 2 different things." She was quiet for a long moment. Outside, a cloud moved across the sun and the light in the room shifted. "I shouldn't have said that," she said finally. "What I said to Tyler. About you." "No," I said. "You shouldn't have." I didn't know who you were." "That's the part worth thinking about," I said. "You formed a complete judgment about a person you had never met, based on nothing, and used that judgment to have her removed from her own family's holiday. The not knowing who I was professionally is almost beside the point. The point is you didn't know me at all. She had nothing to say to that. Her phone started ringing again. She looked at it. Dennis. You should take that, I said. He's going to need guidance on next steps. She looked at me for another moment. Then she picked up her portfolio, stood and answered the phone as she walked to the door. I heard her voice in the hallway, low and tight, saying, Dennis, I know, just give me a minute. And then the elevator opened and she was gone. I did not call Tyler. I did not call my mother. I did not post anything. I did not send any message that could be forwarded or screenshotted or used as ammunition in the family group chat that I had been quietly watching from a distance for years without participating in much. I went back to work. What I could not control, and did not try to, was the speed at which information travels when a $3.4 million financial arrangement collapses without warning on a Monday afternoon in November. Dennis Lau, from what I learned later, spent 45 minutes on the phone with our accounts team trying to understand the termination. He then spent another hour reaching out to 3 other institutional contacts trying to determine whether the capital could be replaced quickly. It couldn't. Not at the terms they'd had and not in that timeline. The Prestige PR Group had been in a quiet expansion phase, had taken on 2 new office leases based on the assumption of continued backing, and was in the middle of hiring for 6 new positions. None of those plans could proceed without the capital in place. Cassandra got home that evening and had a conversation with Tyler. Tyler apparently called my mother. My mother called me at 8:15 that evening. I let it ring. She called again at 8:22. I let it ring again. At 8:31 she sent a text. Elena, please call me. Tyler is very upset. He says you did something to Cassandra's business. I read it. I set the phone down. I finished the chapter of the book I was reading. Then I picked the phone back up and typed. I made a business decision. It was nothing personal. I set the phone down again. Tyler called the next morning at 7:45. I was already at my desk. I answered on the second ring. What did you do? He said. No greeting. No pretense. Good morning, Tyler, I said. Don't. What did you do to Cassandra's company? I terminated a financial arrangement that was up for review, I said. It's a standard business process. You did it the same day she was in your office, he said. Don't tell me that's a coincidence. The timing is what it is, I said. Elena. His voice had the particular quality it got when he was trying to sound authoritative and wasn't quite landing it. Tyler was 2 years older than me, had a comfortable mid-level management job at a logistics company, and had spent most of our lives operating from the assumption that his comfort was the family's primary concern. She's my wife. What you did. What I did, I said, was make a decision about a business I run with capital I manage on behalf of investors who trust my judgment. Kept my voice level. What you did was text me 4 days before Thanksgiving to tell me I wasn't welcome at my own family's table because your new wife decided, without ever having met me, that I would embarrass her. Silence. That's not. Dad liked the message, I said. With a thumbs up. More silence. Longer. I'm not going to pretend that didn't happen, I said. And I'm not going to pretend it didn't mean something. But I also want to be clear with you, Tyler. This isn't about revenge. I don't operate that way. The decision about Cassandra's firm was a business decision. It happened to coincide with other things, but I need you to understand that I don't torch companies for personal reasons. If I did, I wouldn't have backed hers in the first place. You backed her company? His voice had changed. The aggression had drained out of it, replaced by something more confused and considerably more uncomfortable. What do you mean you backed her? 3 years ago, I said. Silent arrangement. $3.4 million. Your wife's CFO knows the details. The silence this time was different. Fuller. Tyler, I said. I need you to hear me. I'm not your enemy. I am not someone who needs to be managed or hidden or uninvited from things because she might embarrass the room. I have built something real. I have done it quietly without asking for your acknowledgement or mom's or dad's, because I was not building it for you. But I am still your sister. And being your sister means something to me even when it clearly doesn't factor into your decisions. He didn't respond right away. When he did, his voice was quieter. Elena, I didn't know. I know you didn't, I said. That's part of the problem. My mother came to my office on Thursday. She didn't call ahead, which meant she got as far as the lobby before the front desk called Marcus, and Marcus called me and I said to send her up. She came in looking the way she always looked when she had done something she couldn't quite bring herself to fully own. Slightly overdressed for the occasion, carrying a small offering in the form of a bakery box that she set on my desk like it might absorb some of the tension in the room. She looked around my office. At the view. At the furniture. At the framed documents on the wall. Degrees, a few awards, a letter from the mayor's office regarding our civic investment fund. She had been to my office once before years ago when it was much smaller and in a much less impressive building. She had been polite about it in the way that people are polite when they're being careful not to be impressed. She was not being careful today. She started then stopped. Sit down, Mom, I said. She sat. We talked for 2 hours. Not easily and not without difficult stretches of silence. And not with the complete resolution that people in stories always seem to achieve in their climactic conversations. Real resolutions don't happen in an afternoon. They happen in years, in small repeated choices, in the slow work of deciding what kind of relationship you want and whether the other person is willing to do their half. But we talked. Honestly, which was not something my mother and I had always done. She admitted that she had let Tyler's preferences shape too many decisions. She admitted that my father's thumbs up had been wrong and that she had told him so afterward, which I had not known. She admitted that she had spent a long time telling herself a story about me, that I was difficult, that I was distant, that my absence from family events was a choice I made carelessly, when the truth was more complicated than that, and she had preferred the simple version because the simple version didn't require her to ask harder questions about what she had done to contribute to the distance. I listened. I said what was true. I did not perform forgiveness I didn't feel yet, but I also didn't withhold the acknowledgement that she was trying, which she was. Before she left, she looked at the view one more time. I didn't know, she said. Not about the business specifically. About all of it. I know, I said. That's what I want to change. Cassandra's firm survived. I want to be clear about that because this is not a story about destruction. Within 3 weeks, Dennis Lau had secured a replacement facility from a regional bank at slightly less favorable terms, and Prestige PR Group had scaled back the expansion timeline by about 8 months. It was a setback, not a collapse. Cassandra was, as I said, very good at her business, and people who are very good at their business find ways through setbacks. She sent me an email in early December. Professional, brief, and more honest than I expected. She said that she had done something thoughtless and unkind based on insecurities she didn't fully understand at the time. He said she was sorry. She said she hoped eventually we could find a way to be civil for Tyler's sake. I replied that I appreciated the email and that civility was not only possible but something I was committed to. I meant it. Christmas that year was at my apartment. My idea, offered without pressure, which meant people could accept or decline without obligation. My mother came. My father came and was quieter than usual in a way that I understood to be its own kind of apology. Tyler came without Cassandra, who had a prior commitment, or so he said, and I chose to take it at face value. We ate. We talked. My father helped with the dishes, which he never did at other people's houses, and I decided to count that as something. It wasn't fixed. Families don't fix the way pipes fix or engines fix. Cleanly, completely, with a definitive moment when the thing either works or doesn't. Families fix the way coastlines change. Slowly, under constant pressure, with occasional dramatic shifts and long stretches of incremental movement that you can only see clearly from a distance. But we were in the room together. And we were trying. And the view from my apartment, it turned out, was even better than the one from my office. I had worked for that view too. I intended to enjoy it.